Gathering of Heroes. Okay.
これがハンター専用サイト？ああ、世界中のハンターから書き込み。
That kind of looked like a bar, didn't it?
世界中の？すごいや。バーテンダーのカーソルを合わせてみな。モニターからオーラが。
Whoa.
どうやらこのサイト。
Oh, it actually took him?
グリードアイランドは念能力者が作ったゲームだ。制作者はどうやら複数らしいが、目的は不明だ。
Multiple
そい
creators.
つらは100本のソフトすべてに念を込めた。ゲームをスタートすると念が発動してプレイヤーをゲームの中に引きずり込む。
Oh.
ゲームの中に？
ゲ
Okay.
ームは念能力者以外プレイできない。そしてゲームの中でプレイヤーが生きている限り、ゲーム機はコンセントを抜いても
But what if you die?
死ねば止まる。ある所有者がプロを含む50名のハンターを雇い挑戦したが、
And how many came
誰
out?
一人帰ってきた者はいない。
Okay then.
セーブポイントさえ見つかれば戻れるらしいがな。現在7本のグリードアイランドが競売申請登録されている模様。最低落札価格は89億ジェニー。
89億？やっぱ上がってるよ。発売価格。
Because the word is out now, right?
G レベルか。案外低いな。
Oh, so how many more
程
levels?
度の品を入手できないようじゃ自分を探せっこないってことだよね。89億なんだぜ。俺らが入り込む余地ねえよ。買う方じゃなくて売る方で。売る方？そうか。俺たちもお宝を探して競売に出すんだよ。よし。
Multiple creators. I'm still thinking about that. I'm sure Jing has a hand in it. They have a handshake.
だから信用できる公共サイト
Oh
が
no, they got
来たの
scammed.
にしょうがないだろ。やばいところじゃないと儲けが少ないんだから。名女優セーラの毛髪。
Oh no, not Sarah.
DNA 鑑定書付き。
諸君らには早速任務についてもらう。
All four of them. Nice.
ヨークシンのホテルの部屋までボスをガードし、無事に送ること。ヨークシン郊外にあるリンゴオン空港までは専用飛行船で行く。
Show me the boss.
諸君たち4人は護衛陣形の一番外を
Ooh, who's the inner?
何か質問は？ボスは黒社会の要人だ。恨んでる人間は売るほどいる。
分かっていないようなので言います。恨んでいようがいまいが、要は実際に行動を起こすかもしれない人物の心当たり。敵が絞れれば動機、性格、環境が分かり、対策が立つ。
Ooh, I like the
それだ
earrings.
け護衛の安全度が増す。
分かってねえのはてめえだ。俺たちは誰がいつど
And that's it?
こからどんな方法で襲いかかってきてもボスを守る。それだけ頭に叩き込んでおけばいい。ボスに紹介する。キナ。
Okay, this should be interesting.
ちょっと、あれは
Whoa.
やけに生々
Yeah,
しい。
because it's a person.
なあ、本物の人間だ。かつての仕事仲間だがな。俺の教えを守らず、敵の偽情報に踊らされ、結果、護衛団はおるか、ボスを危険にさらした。従って処分した。
How about the guy that was tied up? That's not him, is it? No, I don't think so. Ha. That's the boss,
ボス
eh?
のネオン様だ。
Neon Summer.
よろしくね。新入りさん。
Oh, I know that silhouette. She was in the specialist category, right?
黒社会の要人だって言うから、どれだけ凶悪なご面相かと思いきや、可愛いお嬢さんだこと。
Oh, hold on now. She's a specialist. Looks can be deceiving. Whoa. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's them. It's gotta be them. Hey. Another potential silhouette?
パクノだ。元気だったか？お久しぶり、シャルナーク。
That's gotta be the femme fatale?
ボノレノグ、コルトピー、お前たちも一緒だったのか。
Hey, the boxer. Yep.
おう久しぶりじゃねえか、お前ら。着いたぜ、団長。
今度の獲物はなんだ。早く命じて
That's a silhouette. The other specialist. The boss. And Hisoka.
雫じゃねえか。
Cute. Really cute.
もう一人の新顔はまだなの？さあ、町にでも聞いてくれ。
Oh. Oh, I'm loving this. It has me on the edge of my seat. Like,
ロッドフェル様とトランク様もぜひ占って。
a lot of new names, man.
もうやだよ。
Ah, Fortune.
これ以上増やしたらやめるって言ったでしょ。
どちらも父君と懇意にされて
Who's the
おられ
father?
るでして。
で、そのパパはどうしたの？
どうしても外せない会議がありまして。
どうせゴルフかハンティングでしょ。やったー！また一つお宝ゲット。得しちゃったよ。
Ooh. Ooh, I've seen something similar. Ghost Rider. Looking at a specialist right here, folks. Krapika?
親父の船で暗黒街の顔役を多数顧客に抱えてるって話だぜ。
いや、むしろ逆だろ。
Because of her skills.
娘を利用して父親が闇世界でのし上がったと取る方が正しいだろう。だから父親は異常に恐れている。娘を失うことと自分が押しのけてきた連中のネタに。
Surely there'll be at least a test for the bodyguards. Oh, that's Phantom Troupe. It is. Yep. It's all checking out the silhouettes. Whoa, years. I like that.
3年2ヶ月。あの時とは2人メンツが違うね。4番と8番、別な人に変わった。
4番は、密かの野郎は今日はちゃんと来るんだろうな。
知らないね。私に聞くな。
お前の役目だろ。
来いと伝えただけだ。
She did her job.
密か嫌いね。なぜ団長あいつのわがまま許すか。
Yeah.
腕がいいからだろう。あいつのバンジーガムはよくできてる。
Ah, the scratch.
それが何か。
You don't want
団
you
長
want
が密かなこと怖がってるいうか。
you'd rather not have him as an enemy though, right?
そうじゃねえけどよ。
大したことねえよ、あんなやつ。
口だけなら何とでも言えるからな。
I was gonna say, are they about to fight?
信長、
Nobunaga.
さっきから黙って聞いてるよ。
ちっとも黙ってなかったじゃねえか。
Franklin.
フランクリン。
ところで団長、全員集めて何する気だろう。
そりゃ私たち盗賊。物盗むに決まってるね。
そりゃそうだけど。
Gathering of heroes, apparently.
お嬢様の占いに気になることが。何もかもが値上がりする地下室。そこがあなたの寝床になってしまう。この下りから始まる詩が他に3編。つまり4人の顧客に同じ占いの結果が出たんです。
Who's the
その
father?
4
You
人
gotta
の
show
頂
me.
点は今年の地下競売に参加する予定があるということです。おそらく眠ることに関する言葉は病や死の暗示です。わかった。お嬢様は自分が占った内容を知りませんし、ご自身を占うこともできません。今すぐにでも連れ戻せ。しかし、やめていただくにも下手な説得は逆効果になります。お嬢様が本気で怒ったら我々では手に負えません。
Interesting.
競売はお前たちだけで落札するんだ。
わかりました。
Oh, it could be interesting if. Okay, new character.
レオン。
Now, should I call her Neon or Neon? Go on, show me the chief.
もうすぐ夜明けね。
He'll come. He'll come.
今度あったらやつ先にしてやる。
おやおや。
Yes.
物騒な話をしているね。怖い怖い。
ひそか、てめえ。
遅かったじゃない
Yeah, I saw that silhouette.
ったく、来ないかと思ったよ。
Hey, new colors.
君に来いって言われたか
And
ら。
I came.
約束破ったら 君の年始縫合が見られなくなると思ってさ。
Step into the light, my guy. Okay. Okay, he's special.
団長、今回は何を
He's special, all
するんだ
right.
アンダーグラウンドオークションのお宝を奪う。
Okay.
古文書とか団長本好きだし。
違うね。きっとゲームね。世界一高いゲームが何本か売りに出されるよ。
とりあえず金銀財宝が基本
This is
じゃんか。
interesting.
全部だ。オークションのお宝丸ごと。
Wow. And he's a handsome lad.
本気かよ、団長。
Everything.
オークションは世界中のヤクザが協定を組んで仕切ってる。手出したら世の中のその筋の者たち全部敵に回す。
Yeah, he doesn't care.
怖いのか、ウボギ。
嬉しいんだよ。嬉しくてたまんねえ。さあ、命じてくれ団長。
My god.
今すぐ。
This is so exciting to me, man.
俺が許す。殺せ。
Kill them all.
邪魔する奴は一人残らずな。
Wow.
地下競売で次の3つの品物を必ず競り
Oh
落とす。
no. Oh no.
金に糸目はつけない。
Oh no. Krapika, brace yourself.
DNA 鑑定書付き。
No, no. They show me Krapika.
そしてクルタ族の眼球、通称火の目。何者かがこのオークションを襲うという情報が入っている。
And Krapika's
入手を大前提に行動せよ。
He's gonna be at the auction. I was about to say that, not to kind of hold my tongue because of the dialogue.
奴らが
Oh yeah, they're coming.
一族の仇を待ち受けるクラピカ、殺戮の盗賊幻影旅団、それぞれの運命が絡み合い、オークション1日目の朝が
Oh
や
my
ってきた。
god, yes, yes. Someone from the Phantom Troupe, maybe Neon or Neon.
ノストラードファミリー組長の娘。趣味は人体収集、念能力はラブリーゴーストライター。俺だったら自分の未来を占うな。
それはできないらしいよ。
Yeah, so I've heard. Okay, yeah, let's get into it, folks. That is just an incredibly exciting episode, top to bottom. Thoroughly enjoyed that. It's got to be one of the best, right? Top 5, top 3, essentially a contender for the best episode of the series so far. I mean, it is a matter of perspective as well, but, you know, speaking of perspective, how about the title of the episode, right? The Gathering of Heroes. How about that, right? Some food for thought. Because, you know, it is certainly a case of having some perspective, right? Looking at things from different perspectives. My God, you know, it's been building and building and building some more to this, to the introduction of the Phantom Troupe. And that build up and that hype, it was beginning to reach a point that kind of had me thinking, you know, is it going to live up to it? You know, am I going to kind of set myself up here? Because, you know, to be fair, a good percentage of that build up, that hype, that buzz surrounding the Phantom Troupe is from me. You know, I kind of heightened it because I was just so into this. You know, this whole concept, this idea of the Phantom Troupe, right? A group of these characters together. So to be fair, you know, a decent percentage of that build up and that hype and that buzz, it was on me as well, right? So if it was going to end up being a little bit disappointing, you know, I would have been, you know, open to admitting that, okay, maybe I hyped it up a bit too much for myself. Maybe I got a little bit too excited for this intro to the Phantom Troupe, but that lived up to all the hype. For me, that was just incredibly exciting to meet these characters, finally meet these characters. You know, as you know, I've been excited about this prospect since the early days of the Hunter exam, right? The iconic, the infamous moment earlier on, right? Showing us a silhouette shot of the Phantom Troupe. It's been on my mind constantly since that episode. And, you know, it takes a lot for me to be this, you know, excited, this giddy. And, you know, this kind of did it. This really kind of did it. And, you know, I've been around for some time now on YouTube. So for the people that have been around for a few years now, you know You know if I'm into something, and you know if I'm not into something. There's stretches in Death Note, for example. You could tell, I'm sure you could tell that, okay, he's not maybe feeling this segment of it. Maybe he's not feeling the direction of this story arc, perhaps, right? Maybe, the second half of Death Note, and, again, elements of Light Yagami and all of that. I don't want to go too much into that. But yeah, as you could see, I was really into that. And that applies to the anime as a whole as well at this point. I've been really into it. It's really engaging stuff. All the characters are really, really kind of pulling me in. And look at this. I've just been introduced proper to the Phantom Troupe, right? A dozen new characters, right? And their leader, who's the one person who I don't have a name for, right? I got names for everyone else, but not the leader, not the head honcho, not the head of the spider, the chief, as they call him. And listen, folks, I'm not tribal at all. I'm not the type who kind of feels the need to just stick to one group and, stick to a group just because that, happens to be the group that's kind of the focal point of a story. I'm all about fantastic characters, right? And looking at things from different perspectives. For example, let's give an anime example. Shingeki, Attack on Titan. You spend a solid chunk of that anime with that cast of characters, right? But then after a certain point, you go to Liberio, right? The Marley arc happens. And then you get introduced to a bunch of new characters, right? In addition to some of the longtime characters, the established longtime characters, such as Reiner going back. I immediately took to those characters. Even though I love that cast of characters, I never felt the urge to, call them my side, right? Refer to them as, our side, my side. I feel that it was a common thing for a lot of people, right? I just never felt that need. I just didn't have the urge. I really, really thoroughly enjoyed the new characters in the Marley arc, right? And that whole collection of characters, including Zeke and Reiner, of course, who, again, I get to meet a little bit earlier before the Marley arc. But yeah, I took to those characters. I liked them just as much, right? Let me give you another example. Game of Thrones. I've always loved the Starks, right? I've always kind of said, those are my people. But that didn't stop me from liking and loving, actually, the Lannisters, some of the most fascinating characters of the entire show. And again, there's a plethora of amazing characters and groups in Game of Thrones. But, that doesn't diminish my love for the Starks, right? It didn't diminish my love for the original ensemble cast in Shingeki, right? And it does not diminish my love for our core principal cast in Gon, Killua, Leorio, Kurapika. No, I love these characters, but I also love Hisoka. And I most definitely took to the Phantom Troupe almost immediately. And isn't it, did I say this? I remember saying this a long time ago. What if I end up liking these characters? And look at that. It's textbook. These characters are likable. I certainly feel so, right? Again, it might be a matter of perspective. Maybe a lot of you or some of you actually don't like them, right? But I find that hard to believe. I feel, I really truly feel like the cast dynamics, the ensemble dynamics already on display. Oh my God, it's just so exciting. I just really want to see more of them together, right? I love seeing Hisoka kind of antagonizing them, right? You see, they're not dummies. They understand that there is something off about Hisoka. They are a little bit standoffish. But also notice how Hisoka, even though he is kind of antagonizing most of them, he's still really friendly towards Machi. And of course, I got all the names. I'll probably have to listen to a few more times. And speaking of listening, I heard a lot of familiar voices. A lot of them. A handful of them, actually. And I feel like I have a few of them figured out. But the other few, I think I'll have to listen to a few more times. So the two voices that I'm pretty sure about, after listening to once again, are Pakunada, the femme fatale, and the samurai guy, Nobunaga, right? Nobunaga, Askeladd's voice. Pretty certain of that. And Pakunada appears to be the voice of Ed from Full Metal, and of course Hanji from Shingeki. So I think those two I'm pretty sure about. But there's a few others that do kind of sound familiar. But I'll give it another episode or two. Listen to them the next time, and see if it's kind of fitting into something. But yeah, it really is a fantastic introduction. I mean, the establishing shot, that shot right there, in that abandoned city, right, outskirts. But the actual staging of it appears to be some kind of abandoned church. That shot that pans down and then holds from behind, right, on the chief. That shot right there is one of my favorites in all of anime as of this point. Out of the anime I've seen, of course. Wow. I mean, it's most likely going to be my thumbnail, right? Because it truly just has to be showcased. It does. And it really kind of feels quite fitting. It does. But the first thing you notice on that really stylish coat that he's rocking, and I see it now, the fur and the silhouette, right, from the original Phantom Troupe silhouette, and then of course, the silhouette for the specialists from the new intro that I recently got. And then again, I see the other specialist as well, Neon. Now that is a character that really took me by surprise, kind of caught me off guard. Just the nature of that character. But of course, one of the things that stood out the most is the massive cross on the back, right? It's an upside down cross. It's an inverted cross on the back of his coat. And then of course, tattooed on his forehead as well. So, there's a lot of interesting imagery and, symbolism at play here already. And it feels like my description of Hisoka being a bit of a Judas actually fits in quite a bit now after this episode. Right? And also a few of the other Phantom Troupe members fit in the silhouettes of the new intro, right? The person that initially made me think of Kurapika. I remember saying, oh, that looks like Kurapika again. No, it wasn't Kurapika. It was this other guy who resembles Armin from Shingeki really quite a bit. This really cheerful fellow who appears to just get along with all of them. All of the members of the Phantom Troupe, right? Shalanark, I believe. I'll have to listen to it a few times and say it out loud a few times to get the hang of it for many of these names. And I just knew even back then, around the time I first mentioned that, what if I end up liking a lot of them? I just knew, that is going to end up being the case, right? That these characters are going to be fascinating and intriguing. And also by likable, I mean likable as interesting characters. But also, a few of them actually do feel like they could be just straight out likable. And almost immediately, you can see that they don't fit the mold. A solid chunk of them do not fit that mold of the stereotypical bad guys. I mean, at this point, for a handful of them, I'm really, really quite excited to learn about their backstories and their motives and how exactly they ended up in the Phantom Troupe. Because I do feel that a few of them actually stick out like sore thumbs being a part of this group. But also, I kind of have to go back to something I said during the episode itself about Neon. Looks can be deceiving. But also, in terms of Neon, you kind of get a clear understanding for her actually, functioning as a typical teenager of that age. She's a bit of a spoiled brat, she loves a lot of the things people her age love. She loves to have a good time. She loves to shop, even though her idea of shopping is a little bit twisted, right? Because she does have quite the interesting hobby, to say the least, right? She's really, really into human trophies, collecting human trophies. And again, money is not an issue, as they reiterate near the conclusion of the episode, in a moment that essentially confirms and puts Kurapika in the middle of something that is being set up now as a core moment of this series, of this story arc, the underground auction. My God. There's a lot of moving pieces in this episode. And also on that end, I think it's really quite effectively handling these multiple plots that are at play at this point, right? But again, a lot of moving pieces, and a lot of those moving pieces are moving towards that auction, the underground auction, right? At this point, the Phantom Troupe is going to show up there and take everything everything, even though there's a really, really cool segment, right? And again, you kind of get to see the personalities and the disposition of each one of these members, or at least a handful of them, right? As they give their ideas about the type of treasure they're after. You've got Machi, who's mentioning ancient texts because the chief likes books. I mean, that much is clear, right? I mean, of course he's intelligent. Of course he is. And the thing is, that right there might be something Kurapika actually has in common with the chief, the head of the spider, you know? And then, you've got, I think, another member is talking about the games, right? He mentioned the 7 copies of the game being there, Greed Island, right? The crazy thing is, I'm going on and on about this aspect of this episode, right? The Phantom Troupe, because again, it kind of dominates this episode. But yeah, there's a whole other segment, Greed Island, right? Gon and Killua. Though they've kind of hit bit of a roadblock at this point, and it appears that they're not going to be able to actually get one through just buying one, right? Actually going to the auction and buying one. But like I said, there's a lot of moving pieces, and a lot of them appear to be heading towards the underground auction. So Gon and Killua are going to have to think outside of the box, right? If they're to get a copy of that. Listen, ultimately, they'll get the copy somehow. But the thing is, this underground auction is a ticking time bomb, right? It is going to be a bloodbath from the sounds of it. It's going to be bedlam and chaos in there, isn't it? So yeah, Gon and Killua, yeah, they're going to have to get creative, right? Maybe use it. Maybe kind of sneak in there and use that to their advantage. But again, the reason it might be chaotic is because it might be a bloodbath. So, maybe it might not be as simple as just sneaking in there. The crazy thing is, Kurapika is going to be in the middle of this, but not only is he going to actually come across the Phantom Troupe, because they are going to show up, right? They are going to show up. He's also going to potentially find himself in a position actually bidding on the scarlet eyes of his late clan. But the idea of that is kind of deliciously morbid, my goodness. And surely at this point, Melody has put it together, right? That he must be a member of that clan. Or the Scarlet Eyes belong to his clan. Because at this point, she's picked up on it on a few occasions. But yeah, going back to the Phantom Troupe, or the different members kind of giving their take on the treasure they should be going after, or they think they might be going after, you see that Nobunaga takes more of a practical, logical approach, and he felt that surely they should be going after precious metals and gemstones, I believe. I mean, it's already so clear that, this Phantom Troupe is just the right dynamic of characters together, the right dynamic of people together. But yeah, none of that mattered because the chief said they're going after everything. And as Uvo, I believe, the big hulking guy, I mean, there's 2 of them. You've got all of these really interesting names, and then you've got Franklin. Franklin, who does kind of resemble the Frankenstein monster, right? But also in terms of group dynamics, you've got Nobunaga and Franklin clashing. And, again, it appears to be the norm, right? I think the other guy, Phaeton, right? He said, oh, look, they're playing around again. So it's a common thing, that they kind of butt heads, right? Not everyone is going to like each other, right? But they know how to function in a group. They know how to be a team player once it counts, right? And that feels real to me. That feels so realistic, right? You can't expect everyone to be, best friends or anything. Of course, a few of them are going to clash. And then, of course, you see that Nobunaga and Phaeton also kind of clash, don't they? Phaeton is really quite loyal to the chief. I mean, he's so loyal that he actually took offense to the implication that, Hisoka might be just as formidable as their chief, or better than their chief. And you do see that Nobunaga is a realist, right? He calls it as is. And, he admits, yeah, Hisoka is impressive. He is. And many of them know that, right? And perhaps it's one of the reasons many of them kind of keep him at an arm's length, right? They are a little bit standoffish. I mean, look at the reactions on their faces as Hisoka, comes in and he's speaking to them, kind of poking at them, antagonizing them a bit. But the thing is, just his presence, really, it's really off-putting for most of them. Machi is just oh my god, anytime he speaks to her, she's just disgusted. But then look at Machi's expressions as the chief speaks, right? Not just Machi, many of them. I'd say the majority of them look at the chief as, I don't know, someone they truly respect, someone who deserves their loyalty, someone who's earned the loyalty, right? Someone who is a leader of men, someone who is worth following, right? Because a lot of them, so especially some of these bruisers, some of these, hulking figures, be it Franklin, be it the, excitable Uvo, who is essentially trembling with excitement at the notion, at the prospect of going all out, having the chance to actually take everyone out. Because essentially, if this goes down and if they massacre, if they butcher everyone in there, yeah, essentially the whole underground is going to become their enemy. But again, if they actually get everything that's there, all of the treasure, as they call it, yeah, it's quite the trade-off, isn't it? And for the people who've seen Game of Thrones, doesn't Uvo kind of exude the Tormund energy, the glory of battle and all of that? And, initially I kind of labeled that silhouette as something similar to Conan the Barbarian. I mean, he essentially fits that image, more or less. And then, of course, there's a few others, the bandaged up boxer, right? I saw that silhouette. There's Finks, right? The guy who's all, anal about being on time or, being there ahead of time even. And then, of course, the really happy fellow, Shalanark, right? Really truly resembles Armin. But again, I think this came before Shingeki, right? I think this came long before Shingeki. Yeah, it did. So yeah, it's Armin who looks like him, rather. Hell, you could even see a bit of Annie in Pakunada. Again, actually flip it. You can see a bit of Pakunada in Annie because, again, this came first. And at this point, I've seen enough anime and kind of, seen enough comments to know that, a lot of these creators actually take inspiration from some of the classics. I've seen a lot of inspiration from EVA, a lot of it in Shingeki, and certainly a bit in Full Metal Alchemist as well. And then lastly, there's a really cute member that showed up. I mean, she looks like a librarian, doesn't she? Like I said, some of them just kind of stick out like sore thumbs, don't they? But again, that just makes it even more intriguing that they are a part of this group. And then I think beyond that, there's two more that I mentioned one of them, the boxer guy. I can't remember the name. But, let's kind of go back to the chief and him deciding that, they're going for everything. Now, again, I don't know enough yet. But, is there some kind of long-term planning at play here? Is he making a major play here by, legitimately just going up against everyone, right? Us against the underground. There could be something like that at play, but also it could be just as simple as, fuck it, let's just do it. Let's just go after everything, And if they want to come after us, let them try. Sure, it could be as simple as that, at the end of the day. They are a group of mercenaries. They are considered to be thieves. And ultimately, it is their MO, isn't it? But, again, one thing that is clear is that he's not just a simple person. The chief, that is. Of course, he's not a simple person. I mean, I think I'm just barely scratching the surface. I just met him. And of course, if you look at Hisoka's reaction, just a reaction alone should tell you quite a bit. Right. And, it also kind of reiterates Hisoka's interest in the Phantom Troupe or the leader specifically. Right. It's all about the leader for Hisoka. Right. His ears perked up as Machi told him, you've been summoned. Everyone's been summoned. And his first question is the boss going to be there? Right. Did he say boss or chief? Can't remember. He said one or the other. But then also, if you look at someone like the loyal Phaeton, he's just confused about the whole thing, right? He's not a fan of Hisoka. He doesn't trust Hisoka. Many of them don't trust Hisoka. So of course, they're not dummies. Most of them are really quite intelligent, or at least intelligent enough to know that, okay, yeah, this is not a friend. This is not someone you can count on being loyal, right? But also it kind of gives you maybe a bit of insight to how the leader, the head honcho, the chief functions, right? If you're capable enough, if you bring something unique to the table, and Hisoka is unique and then some, if you can be used to further the goals of the Phantom Troupe, the group as a whole, it looks like he's open to it. The chief is open to allowing people like Hisoka to join the group, right? Even if it doesn't make sense to people like Phaeton. The idea, the notion that the chief kind of lets him loose, right? He doesn't really have Hisoka on a leash or anything. He lets him do as he pleases. He lets him come and go as he pleases. Though, of course, for this one, he stepped in and he said everyone is expected to show up. And of course, Hisoka showed up fashionably late, of course, but he showed up. The thing is, it's entirely possible that the chief actually knows Hisoka's motives, right? There's probably a really good chance of that. So yeah, this whole Hisoka and the head of the spider angle to all of this is certainly quite the exciting prospect. But also, let's not forget that Hisoka is meant to meet up with Kurapika as well, right? So how's that going to play out, right? Is there going to be that team up at some point? Oh, also, speaking of the chief, I kind of have to go back and correct myself because I think I mentioned he had a cross on his forehead, but it wasn't a cross. There's a cross on the back of the coat, but on his forehead, it's something that's kind of similar to a cross. But yeah, the chief certainly has quite a bit of presence about him, right? He's got this aura about him. But let's shift the focus back to Kurapika, right? And him essentially getting the job as the bodyguard, one of the four, right? The outer ring, I believe. Now, listen, I saw a bit of that arrogant side of Kurapika, and so did the head of security, right? He's like the personal handler to Neon, right? And he's in direct contact with her father, right? Her father is an interesting one as well because, of course, he's using his daughter's special abilities to his advantage, of course, to further himself in the underground. But, I got the feeling that he really does care about his daughter as well. So, it's an interesting dynamic in that sense. He's more than open to exploiting his daughter, but he also cares for her, right? But yeah, even if Kurapika is asking some legitimate questions, right, that could help. But that being said, I didn't mind that the head of security kind of checks Kurapika, kind of puts him in his place, doesn't he? But yeah, Kurapika and the others and I get to meet Neon, right? One of our two specialists from the new intro, right? The other one being the chief. And, listen, it's not really that much of a surprise that, that Silhouette did end up being the chief, right? Again, he was center stage in the original, Phantom Troupe Silhouette shot from the Hunter exam phase. So yeah, him being a specialist kind of checks out. And of course, from the things I've seen already in this episode, he certainly appears to be quite special, right? There is a reason Hisoka took an interest in him. But yeah, as far as Neon's special abilities go, Nen abilities, yeah, it's certainly quite an interesting one. And you see the reason the father is so damn protective. I mean, she's got a massive target on her back. And essentially, she's got a gift for penning prophecies, right? Fortune-telling-esque. But the thing I really like about this is that there is this element of interpretation, isn't there? Because it is presented in quite a poetic manner, isn't it? The one I see in this one, the one that the head of security actually tells the father about, the four people that actually had it done, all of them received something really, really quite similar because, again, clearly all four of them planned on being down there. But essentially, it's pretty spot on, isn't it? Because as us, the audience, knows, the Phantom Troupe is going to show up, right? And again, from the sounds of it, they're planning a bloodbath. So yeah. And the thing is, even though the father cares for the daughter, you see that the head of security actually has a better understanding of the daughter's abilities because he's the one who's actually explaining some of the intricacies of it to the father, right? Some of the limitations. And yeah, it makes sense, doesn't it? He is the head of security and, he's clearly spending quite a bit of time around her. But, also, I really like that detail of, the second group showing up, right? Franklin and Nobunaga, Machi, Phaeton. I believe they even called it Phaeton's group. Now, I'm not sure if that's saying that, these four are usually together, right? And Phaeton's kind of like, the leader of this splinter group. And they've been split up for some time now, apparently. As far as all 13 of the members go, 3 years and 2 months to be exact, right? That's quite a bit of time. Now, again, that doesn't mean that a few of them haven't been together in that time, because it does feel like a few of them do meet up, right? Again, in these smaller splinter groups and, kind of pull off some jobs. But to get all 13 together, to assemble all 13, yeah, it's a rare occasion. So yeah, first time 2 years plus that the whole Phantom Troupe is assembling. And, they also made it a point to point out that, numbers 4 and 8 are different than before. Now, of course, I know number four is quite the iconic one. But yeah, through that piece of information, I got a confirmation for one of the questions I had, right? About the buildup, the structure of the Phantom Troupe. If it's meant to have a fixed group, essentially no. Members are replaceable. They are. But then the next question becomes, how exactly do you replace a member? Do members ever get expelled? Are there any, ex-Phantom Troupe members out there? Or is it kind of like, your troop for life until you die, right? So I can see that angle for sure, that, once a member dies, they go out there and they look for a replacement, right? And I'm guessing the chief probably has a major say in that, but I'm sure, some of these, I don't know, maybe people like Phaeton, right? These people that are clearly quite loyal to the chief. Maybe someone like him might have a say, right? Maybe the chief himself kind of looks to some of these members. But then again, that being said, I spoke of how most of them simply do not like Hisoka. So I'm not sure how much of a say anyone else really had about Hisoka. Was he actually, I don't know, scouted, Or was it as simple as the number 4 dying and him taking that spot? Hell, could it even be something like, killing a Phantom Troupe member gives you the right to take that space, to take that slot, that number? But again, as all of us know, Hisoka is just playing the part. And then, of course, let's look at that angle. How exactly does the Phantom Troupe line up against Hisoka? I mean, at this point, maybe it's a little bit early days. Maybe I'll hold off until, this potential underground auction massacre, bloodbath that might take place. Then I'll truly have a better idea of how exactly they might stack up against Hisoka once that goes down. And even though it sounds a little bit morbid, the idea of getting to see the Phantom Troupe in action down there in that underground auction, doing their thing, the exciting part is that I get to see their Nen abilities on display and kind of get to see the type of Nen users they are. And then again, I've seen a few silhouettes that are kind of confirmed, right? But to see it in action is going to be really quite interesting. And it'll be interesting to see how they could potentially counter Hisoka. But, Nobunaga made it clear that, his bungee gum is really quite impressive. And he actually even specifies that it's something that could be difficult to counter, right? And, he's the one who's kind of alluding to this idea of, you'd rather have someone like him on your side. But again, as Nobunaga is going on about this and giving his really honest and complimentary appraisal of Hisoka's abilities, Phaeton gets a little bit offended, doesn't he? Now, another question I really have at this point is, how much does Kurapika know about the Phantom Troupe? Because of course, he must have done his research or tried his best to actually get as much information as he can about the Phantom Troupe. I'm sure they're not the easiest bunch to read up on, because there's probably not that much documented information about them out there, right? Other than a bit of a legend that is the group's name and, how they function maybe. But I'm sure he's still come across some really interesting information about them. At the least, he can kind of infer that Hisoka has some connection to them, right? Again, because he approached him and told him to meet him in Yorknew, right? And I've got information about the spiders. So, that I'm still so excited about that. The Hisoka and Kurapika meetup. And the thing is, it might be just around the corner, potentially right before the underground auction itself. And at this point, Kurapika's group and, Neon's group and all of that, they do have an idea about there being a potential attack, at the underground auction. So, he told them, the head of security told them, so you have to deal with that and also focus on, getting those items. You've got to get those items. So let's kind of go back to the beginning of the episode. Gon and Killua, trying to find out more information about Greed Island and, that whole plot. Like I said, it's just so effectively juggling these multiple plots. This episode just felt, again, it's a 21 minute episode, 22 minutes, maybe, much less. I think it's really only 20 minutes if you take out the intro and the outro and all of that. Once again, it felt like the runtime of this episode is really quite economical, or the use of the runtime is economical, rather, and really quite impressive. Really effective. But yeah, let's have a look at some of the confirmed information that both us, the audience, get and Gon and Killua get as well. And then I love the presentation of that. Them actually gaining access to the database. Them actually getting pulled into this database. And I think it's a bit of a clever approach because that actually might be exactly how the game functions. Or something along those lines, right? Kind of using the same concept, but of course on a much, much larger scale, right? It's meant to be an island. But the thing is, even though they're kind of setting it up as this virtual reality thing that these players get sucked into, and again, it's only for Nen users, right? Practitioners of Nen. And it's also created by practitioners of Nen, multiple creators at that. And again, there's a solid chance that Jing was one of them, one of the creators, right? That he must have had a hand in this, given the fact that it's playing such a major role in Gon's clues, right? The things that he's left to Gon, in terms of, potentially tracking him. And, the thing is, the memory card, the thing I have to make sure not to mix up here is that the save slots on the memory card itself are not the same as a save point within the game itself, because apparently the save point, or one of the save points perhaps inside of the game, is one of the ways to get out of the game. So the memory card that Gon and Killua have, and it appears to be really quite full, again, the fact that it is full kind of gives you an idea of the scale of the game itself, perhaps, right? That it needs to use up all of those slots. So apparently, they've infused 100 copies with Nen, or they did all that time ago, I suppose. And 7 of them are going to be here. And then, again, you've got to ask the question, who exactly is bringing these? Who's putting them up for sale, right? Who's actually putting them back on the market? Because again, it's a rare thing. And to have 7 copies of it come out of here all of a sudden, right? Though, of course, the auction, this specific auction, the Yorknew auction, is the right place for it. It feels like, maybe they are trying, and I'm not sure who they are at this point. Perhaps they are trying to get a few more hunters into the game, right? For a run or something, for the next run. But yeah, apparently it pulls you in. It pulls the Nen user in. Now, the thing is, a few episodes ago, I did speculate that it could be a real place. That Greed Island actually could be a real place. But here in this episode, it's really, really kind of showcasing and pushing that virtual reality element and idea, I suppose. Now, the thing is, I think I'll need to just kind of learn more about how exactly Nen is being incorporated into this. I don't have enough information on that just yet, and I'm sure I'll get more on that as I get closer to that aspect of it, or that, focus of the story, Greed Island. So I'm not sure if I'm completely ready to just discard that speculation about it potentially being a real place, because, again, they're giving me something here as well. They're saying that if you die in the game, you die in real life. But, the bartender actually gave us something really quite intriguing about someone hiring 50 hunters, right? And that they never came back. It's not confirming they died or anything, right? Because again, it's an unknown, but all he said is that they never came back. So it is a possibility that a lot of these people still might be in the game. A lot of these hunters, or Nen users rather, because, again, you don't have to be, a licensed hunter to be a Nen user. Hell, you don't even really have to be a licensed hunter to get some of these gigs. And then again, beyond the 50 hired hunters, there might be others in there. So yeah, at this point, it is kind of pushing towards it being some kind of virtual reality, kind of getting sucked into a game. I don't know. I was kind of thinking of Jumanji. And also, isn't there like a whole genre of anime that is this? I believe it's called Isekai, right? Getting transported to another world. starting a new life, all of that. And the thing is, I am interested in checking out some isekai at some point. I've put a few on my list that I think I could be interested in, few that really kind of caught my eye. So yeah, I certainly hope to get to one of those at some point. But it's so damn exciting, isn't it, that, in the middle of Yorknew, or this arc, they're really truly already setting up this Greed Island arc. But again, it doesn't mean that I've given up on my speculation about it being an actual place. I think that still could be at play here. But you see that they make it a point to focus on the glass, right? Gon goes for the drink, But of course, his hand kind of phases through the drink, through the glass. But yeah, I think that should do it for this one, folks. I mean, essentially, they are saving the best for last. Leorio still has to show up. Oh my god, I'm so excited. I'm really just legitimately excited to see Leorio, because he brings such a different energy, doesn't he? But again, it's a different setting, and I do have concern for Leorio. Hell, I've got concern for Kurapika, and Kurapika's pretty damn impressive, as showcased in the last episode as well. But Leorio, I don't even know if he knows Nen yet. But again, it's just natural to have a bit of concern for the characters you like, especially someone like Leorio, who's not, at the same level as Gon, Killua, and Kurapika. Okay, so if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you're interested in early access or full opacity or timer-based full length, consider checking out the Patreon page and potentially supporting the channel. The links are in the description and the pinned comment. Also links to social media if that's your thing. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for the next episode. Until then, take it easy.